Hey guys, it's Grand Admiral Thrawn, and happy Star Wars Day, everybody. Now, part of what makes Star Wars so great is the spaceships. So, for one of my two May 4th Star Wars Day videos, I decided to do the top 20 ships in Star Wars. I've done top 10 Jedi, top 10 Darksiders, which is just Sith, but I include like Inquisitors and everything, top 20 droids, top 10 lightsabers. So I'm doing the top 20 ships today. Now, none of these ships are bad in this video. Well, okay, none of these ships are bad except for the one joke. So if your favorite ship is lower on the list than you were hoping for, don't take offense. It's just my opinion. Anyway, let's get into this video. So in number 20, I have Kylo Ren's command ship. This ship has next to no screen time, and yet it is so cool in its few screen time minutes that it's able to make number 20 on this list. From the very introduction of this ship, it is threatening. The way it lands is threatening, and it just shows that Kylo Ren is someone you don't mess with just by the look of his ship. So yeah, this ship really does earn its spot in number 20. There are a bunch of other ships that I could have chosen from, but I just like this ship. Even though it's kind of just there, it never really does anything, it's just there. I think it earned number 20. And then Resistance does this thing where they make it like it's not even that special of a ship and everybody has it, so I just discard that from ever existing. And yeah, Kylo Ren's command ship, number 20. Number 19, I have Anakin Skywalker's starfighter from the beginning of Revenge of the Sith. I don't know what it is about those two starfighters from the beginning of Revenge of the Sith. They're just so cool looking. I don't know what it is. And Obi-Wan's, I was debating whether or not to add on this list, but it's Anakin's ship. And Anakin is the best pilot in all of Star Wars. You can say what you want. Han's amazing, Hera's amazing, there are other amazing pilots, but none of them beat Anakin. Okay? And then it's also got R2-D2 with it, so, I mean, number 19. And yeah, this ship's pretty cool. That opening scene in Revenge of the Sith is amazing. Just like, it's a perfect space battle, and it's just such a great scene. So obviously one of those two ships is going to make the list, and I chose wisely by picking Anakin over Obi-Wan. Number 18, I have the Twilight. At first glance, this may seem like just a defective B-Wing. Well, a bigger B-Wing, but it's not actually. It's the main ship of the Clone Wars movie, and then it's in several episodes of Clone Wars until it's destroyed by Maul in season 5, I believe. I could be wrong. It might be season... No, that's season... Wait. Is it season 5 or season 4? I can't remember, but it's not season 6 or 7. It's close to the end, but not that close. But anyway, yeah, the ship gets destroyed. Its first introduction, it's this junker that Anakin and Ahsoka just need because they need to get off the planet. Then Anakin does some adjustments, and it's used more usefully throughout Clone Wars. And it's kind of a junker, but that's why you like it. It's like the Millennium Falcon to a lesser extent. The Falcon's a huge piece of junk, but at the same time, it's the coolest ship in Star Wars because it's the fastest and everything. I'm not spoiling anything when I say that. But with this ship, it's kind of like they tried to redo the Falcon, and it didn't really work. It kind of worked, but at the same time, it didn't. So it made the top 20 list, but it's not going to be high on the list. It's obviously going to be like very bottom or close to it, which it is. Okay, number 17, I have General Grievous's starfighter. And before someone says in the comments its name is the Invisible Hand, no, its name is not the Invisible Hand. That's Grievous's warship at the beginning of Episode 3. This is the ship that Obi-Wan steals from Grievous in order to leave Utapau. Yeah, I know my Star Wars lore. Anyway, so this ship is in Revenge of the Sith, it's in Clone Wars for several episodes, and yeah, it's good in its own way, where it's Grievous's ship, so you like it for that, and then it's also the ship that Obi-Wan uses to get off of Utapau, so you like it for that. Other than that, though, it never really does anything, and that's why it's rather low on the list. I mean, it does save Obi-Wan Kenobi, so that's some credit that it gets, so yeah, I think it definitely earns a spot on the list. It's not going to be high on the list, but it's going to be on the list, at least, so there's that. All right, number 16, I have the Mantis, the ship from Jedi Fallen Order. Now, before Jedi Survivor, this ship would have been way lower on my list. It's nothing against the ship, it's a cool looking ship, but in Jedi Fallen Order, you never really did anything with the Mantis. You just it was your ship, it would take you from planet to planet to planet to planet. But then in Jedi Survivor, it's actually useful. Like, there is a mission where you use the ship and everything. So you actually get to see the ship in action, and that's what bumps it up a little on the list. I had it at like 8. Hang on, wait. Yeah, I think I had it at like 18, and it was below the Twilight, and that really says something. I like the ship's design. It's a great design. It's a cool looking ship, but in Jedi Fallen Order, it was barely used. And so Jedi Survivor bumps it up a bit on my list, but it's not going to be bumped up to like the top 10 just because it's used slightly more in the next game. Yeah, so the Mantis, it's a good ship. I can see why people like it. I like it myself, but it's not going to make that high on the list. Number 15, I have Vader's Super Star Destroyer, also known as the Executor. Now, this ship is kind of the secondary ship in Empire Strikes Back, and it's kind of an underrated ship because if you think about it, this is the ship that introduces us to Boba Fett in live action, that introduces us to Bossk and all the other bounty hunters in live action, and it's in the best Star Wars movie out there. Plus, without this ship, we wouldn't have the iconic scene of the asteroid field because them being chased by this ship is what sent them into the asteroid field. And it's Darth Vader's Star Destroyer. That's got to give it some credit, okay? This ship is massive, and then it's destroyed by an A-Wing that crashes into the bridge and sends it crashing into the Death Star. So yeah, the ship is amazing, but then it's taken out like it's a chump. Like it's this wimpy ship, when in all seriousness, it's not. Plus, it's in the Force Unleashed games for a bit, but those aren't canon, so I can't take them into account here. But yeah, number 15, the Executor, also known as Vader's Super Star Destroyer. Super Star Destroyers are kind of just cool in general, and then Dreadnoughts too. Okay, number 14, I have the Phantom 1 at least. This is the ship from the earlier two well, it's even in Season 3. Okay, but it's barely in Season 3. The first 3 seasons of Star Wars Rebels that can attach onto the Ghost and then shoot off when they don't need the full ship for a mission. They just need a little ship. And that's a really cool feature. It's one of the first times we see that in Star Wars where it's not like an escape pod or anything. It's just another ship that doesn't have to dock in a hangar or anything. It can just detach from another ship, and that's pretty cool. And the Phantom 1 was definitely cool. I do feel like the Phantom 2 is cooler, though, and so the Phantom 1 doesn't get as much. It's got a cool design. It's never really seen in anything else, which I'm kind of glad for, which makes it a unique ship. But then it's just destroyed in Rebels Season 3 in a great episode where it feels like Ezra is all hopeless because the base is going down and now he's lost his only way out. But then he is saved, and I feel like the Phantom, it was a good ship for when they had it. It's in a lot of great episodes. It's in the Malachor episodes. It's in so many great episodes. So yeah, the ship's not making the top 10, but it's making the top 15. And I think that's a good spot for it. Okay, number 13, I have Mando's N1. Oh my gosh. Is it just me, or are N1 Naboo starfighters like the coolest looking ships out there? Seriously, they're just so awesome. They're like the best looking starfighter out there. And then when you find out that Mando's gonna get one, that's amazing news. It's so cool to see Mando has one in Book of Boba Fett. You think he's gonna use it in Mando Season 3? And then he barely uses it in Season 3 is the thing. Like, he kind of just uses it in a few episodes and then stops using it and just hitches a ride with Bo-Katan. It kind of sucks because this is an N1 Naboo starfighter. These things are awesome. Plus, it's like the fastest ship that Mando could have right now. It's got that engine in it. It can fit Grogu in the back. It can fit an astromech, which was kind of weird that they just give Grogu that little pod spot and then they remove it and put the astromech thing back in. Oh well. And then it's really cool in that dogfight that Mando has with those pirates, but other than that, he doesn't use the N1 that much, so it's kind of being carried by the fact that I like N1s that much. So yeah, number 13, Mando's N1. If he would have used it in Season 3, like during the final battles and stuff, it most definitely would have made the top 10, but because he doesn't really use it, it's not making the top 10, and that sucks because N1 Naboo starfighters are amazing. Okay, number 12, I have Moff Gideon's light cruiser. Now, hang on, I'm just going to adjust that real quick. Okay, number 12, Moff Gideon's light cruiser. Now, light cruisers are introduced in Rebels. They're these ships that are really cool because they're not quite a Star Destroyer, but they're not quite like your average shuttle. They're like a little lesser than a Star Destroyer. And then we finally get to see one in live action with the Mandalorian. And it's Moff Gideon's ship too, so that makes it cooler. And then it's used in Mando Season 3 with the Mandalorians after they stole the ship. I think it's just a cool ship, and it was great to see a light cruiser in live action, finally. Plus, it's where possibly the greatest episode of The Mandalorian takes place, like in majority, on this light cruiser. So yeah, I think it should earn its spot a little higher. And then it's just such a cool looking ship for Moff Gideon to have a light cruiser. Everybody who's like an Imperial Admiral has a Star Destroyer or something. And there's nothing wrong with a Star Destroyer, don't get me wrong. It's just, it was cool to see Gideon have something unique. Because the Empire's not around anymore. Why would he have a Star Destroyer? So I think it was cool to see him with a light cruiser instead. Speaking of Star Destroyers, number 11, the Chimera, aka Grand Admiral Thrawn's Star Destroyer. Gee, I wonder who that guy is. Anyway, the Chimera may just seem like a normal Star Destroyer, but then it has this little design on the bottom. But no, it's Grand Admiral Thrawn's Star Destroyer, and Thrawn is one of my favorite characters. In case you didn't notice, my channel is named Grand Admiral Thrawn. So I like Grand Admiral Thrawn, and I can't wait to see this pop up in the Ahsoka show, because you know it's showing up in that. Now, it's got this amazing design on the bottom of the ship, but not only that, it's Thrawn's Star Destroyer, and Thrawn is possibly the smartest person in the Empire. He uses this ship for the orbital bombardment of Lothal when Ezra thinks they've outsmarted Thrawn, and he goes, no, you've simply relocated all of my troops so that I can begin my bombardment without a single Imperial casualty. That is amazing. Plus, it's the ship that Ezra and Thrawn are taken away with at the end of Rebels. This ship is amazing, and it was definitely making my list. It's unfortunately not making the top 10, but it's making the top 11, which is pretty cool. Number 10, I have the Phantom II. Like I said, I like the Phantom, but I like the Phantom II a little more because these Separatist shuttles, I don't know what it is about them. It's like the N1s. I think they're a cool ship. So I like the fact that the Rebels have one and they're using it. That was a cool thing, and I'm glad that Dave Filoni did that. Plus, it looks great in the Ahsoka trailer, so I can't wait to see it in live action. But yeah, this ship is used a lot. It starts out as this ship that they use to get off this one planet with battle droids on it. Then they use it in all kinds of other missions, like with Fen Rao when they took him to his base and found out that they were all wiped out. This ship is in a lot. And then what was weird is that in Season 4 of Rebels, it just disappears. It's on the back of the Ghost. And then they just stopped animating it on the back of the Ghost. Like, what happened to the Phantom II in Season 4 of Rebels? Did they just leave it floating in space and then recover it or something? Because it feels like the animators just got tired of animating the thing. Or there was really no need for the ship anymore in Season 4, so I can understand that, but like, could you give us a reason why the ship's not even there? Seriously. It's a cool ship. Could you just say, like, I don't know, some other Rebels borrowing it? Like, something so simple. They could have had something so simple as that. Yet they didn't. Like, maybe it's on Mandalore for the time being. Something like that. But no, they just stopped including it in Rebels after Season 4, which made no sense. But yeah, the Phantom II, an amazing ship. it's better than the Phantom 1, and it made the top 10 of my list. Sure, it's in the bottom of the top 10, but it's still in the top 10. Okay, wait, what is up? Hang on. Okay, number 9, I have the Havoc Marauder. And yes, I purposefully put it at number 9 because Bad Batch are Clone Force 99. Anyway, this ship is not just the Bad Batch's ship. This is their home, okay? It's like Omega says. We can't lose the Marauder too, because that's not just their ship, it's their home. They've lived in that ship. They've gone through so many battles with this ship. It is part of the squad, even though it's just a ship. Yeah, it's an important ship. They use it on all their missions, and then it's in some great battle scenes. Plus, if not for this ship, there would be no tech turn, which is the move that Tech does when he makes the ship turn without the engines even being on. It's this really cool move. If you don't know what it is, you should, you'll know if you YouTube it or just look it up, okay? But yeah, the Bad Batch attack shuttle, as Lego would call it, no, that's not what I call it. I call it the Havoc Marauder, its real name, is great. And then even in that deleted Clone Wars Season 7 thing is great. And I can see why they cut that off of the ship, but still, that would have been hilarious if they did include it, and then they just were like, okay, fine, they got rid of the thing. The nose art. If you don't know what I'm talking about, YouTube it, because it's a hilarious scene that was cut from Clone Wars Season 7. But yeah, this ship, the Bad Batch have done more than just use it. They've bled in this ship. They've done everything in this ship. It's their home. It's not just a ship. Number 8, I have the very first ship we're introduced to in Star Wars. The Tantive IV, also known as Leia's Tantive IV. Now, this is the very first ship we're introduced to in Star Wars, so obviously it's making the list of the top 10 ships in Star Wars. Sorry about the glare. It's been in this whole video. There's nothing I can do about it. Now, just to show us what Star Wars is like, we first open up on a spaceship being chased by a Star Destroyer. And that ship being chased is this ship. This ship is our very first introduction to Star Wars, if you think about it. So yeah, this ship needed to make my top 10. It needed to, at the very least, make the list, which it did. Plus, it's a cool ship, and I kind of wish we had seen more of it. We don't see this one. We see more of this type of ship, but we don't see more of this ship. And I know it was captured, so there's nothing really we can do about it apart from that scene at the end of Rogue One, which kind of sucks because this was a cool ship and it's our very first Star Wars ship ever. So we should have seen, I'm not saying a whole series has to be made about young Leia with this ship. I'm not complaining if they do make that, but I don't know, maybe a bit more besides just this in Rogue One. And I have nothing wrong with that scene at the end of Rogue One. Number 7, I have Poe Dameron's X-Wing. There we go. Dang it. Not his X-Wing from Rise of Skywalker or his X-Wing at the beginning of Force Awakens. I'm talking about his best looking X-Wing. His orange and black one. That X-Wing has just such a cool design to it. It takes the two colors, orange and black, which you'd think would not look good together, and yet somehow this makes possibly the coolest looking X-Wing. Luke's X-Wing is fine, but that one's just kind of a plain X-Wing. Poe's X-Wing, not a plain X-Wing. This is an amazing looking X-Wing, and I'm sorry about the glare. There's nothing I can really do. But anyway, not only is it possibly the coolest looking X-Wing, it's piloted by Poe and BB-8, two of the best characters from the sequel trilogy. Plus, this is the ship that destroys Starkiller Base. Yes, Han and Chewie and the whole group did help by detonating those explosives, but this is the ship that does the final blow that destroys Starkiller Base. There were a lot of things that helped, but it was Poe using this ship that destroyed it. And then Rian Johnson just destroys this ship in Last Jedi like it was nothing. But it does get that one cool action scene with the Dreadnought. That scene I do like, even if it is made to make Poe look like an idiot. But still, this ship is an amazing X-Wing, possibly the coolest looking one. Argue about it in the comments all you want. You're not changing my mind. Number 6, I have the Death Star, which possibly shouldn't even qualify as a ship, but it wouldn't actually, except for one thing. In Rogue One, it makes the jump to light speed. So it's making the list. Now, this is also why the Death Star 2 and Starkiller Base aren't making the list. Neither of them can make the jump to light speed. So they aren't really ships in my mind. And then the Sith fleet from Rise of Skywalker is cool, but it's not making the list. It would probably make honorable mentions if I did include honorable mentions, but it's not. But yeah, the Death Star is the big threat of the first Star Wars movie, A New Hope. And it's an amazing threat. This is a space station that can blow up a planet and is powered by kyber crystals. Okay, this thing is just so powerful. And it took over 20 years to build and used mostly Wookiee slaves and it took so many of the Empire's resources that Thrawn's TIE Defender was barely even able to be made. They were hardly even willing to make that. So yeah, this ship, well, space station, no, it's a ship. It's making the list. Is amazing, and it was so close to making the top 5. So close. But there was another ship that was introduced recently, well, not recently, a few years ago, that cut it off from making the top 5. And you're going to get to that ship soon. Speaking of number 5, in 5th place, I have Red 5, also known as Luke Skywalker's X-Wing. Now, this is the X-Wing that destroys the Death Star. It's the X-Wing that Rey uses during Rise of Skywalker. It's the X-Wing that Luke uses to go to Dagobah and meet Yoda. It's an amazing X-Wing. It's how Luke destroys the Death Star. It's the X-Wing that Vader shoots R2 with. This X-Wing has been used in so much of Star Wars. And everybody knows this X-Wing, okay? Nobody knows Poe's X-Wing's name except, okay, maybe you do, because it's a pretty easy name. It's just Black Leader. But this X-Wing is the one that people remember the most, because it's Red 5, and it's so much so that it was included in Rogue One of why Luke is the new Red 5, because the original Red 5 didn't make it and was blown up. So yeah, that was a cool inclusion in Rogue One. This X-Wing is amazing. If you think of an X-Wing, odds are you're thinking of either Poe's or Luke's. And speaking of X-Wings, I was tempted to include Wedge's X-Wing because Wedge is just an underrated character in general. So I was tempted to include him, but he's not making the list. So like I said about the Sith fleet, if I had honorable mentions, it would make that list. But I don't have time because this video is already 22 minutes long and I've only just made it to number 5. So yeah, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. Number 5, Red 5, Luke's X-Wing. Number 4, I have Mando's Razor Crest. Now this is the ship I was talking about that cut the Death Star from making the top 20. The Razor Crest is an amazing looking ship that we are introduced to in the very first episode of The Mandalorian. And this ship has been gone through a lot. It's suffered a lot. If you watch season 2, you'd know what I mean by this ship takes a beating for Mando. And in season 1 too, in that one episode, which is the whole reason he meets Peli, because he has to land on Tatooine to repair it. This ship goes through so many beatings, yet it's always there for Mando. Except for when it's not, when Moff Gideon destroys the thing till the point that it's just shrapnel on the floor, that it could not be rebuilt. And then rather than just giving Mando a new Razor Crest, I think it was cool that they gave him an N1. And yeah, the Razor Crest, it would have been cool if it had lasted longer, but I think it was great in its few moments that we got of it. It really was a great ship. It's what protected the child, also known as Grogu, for so long, and it was a great ship. It could fit the Blurgs and Queel and IG-11 on it. It's just a great ship. And it's been used so much throughout The Mandalorian, and it's kind of sad to actually see it get blown up. So yeah, number 4, I have the Razor Crest, specifically Mando's, because it's not its name, it's just the type of ship it is. But yeah, number 4, Razor Crest. Number 3, I have the Slave One, or as people on the internet like to call it, Boba Fett's Fire Spray Gunship. That's not what I call it the Slave One. Nothing offensive when I do that, it's just it's how I know the ship. And this ship was amazing to see it return in The Mandalorian Season 2, and then Book of Boba Fett. Now, the Slave One, if you had only had the original trilogy, this would be the one ship that is arguably as cool as the Millennium Falcon. The way it takes off, how, unlike normal ships, this one lands backwards, and then it kind of, like, it does this whole thing in order to actually get up and fly. And it's a cool mechanism. Plus, it can drop seismic charges, which are always awesome to see. They're awesome to see in Attack of the Clones, and then they're possibly even cooler to see in that episode of The Mandalorian Season 2. Oh, all right, there we go. I only now just noticed that. Anyway, so yeah, Boba Fett's fire spray gunship, aka the Slave One, you knew this was making the top 3. Because there are 3 ships in Star Wars that are, without a doubt, the coolest 3 out there. And this was definitely making the top 3. It may be the bottom of those 3, but the Slave One doesn't actually do that much. Let's admit it, okay? It's kind of just a background thing in Empire. It's not even in Jedi. And then it's in Attack of the Clones, a few episodes of Clone Wars, and then it finally returns in Mando Season 2. So let's admit it, the Slave One's a bit overrated, but no, it's an amazing ship, so it's making my top 20, and my top 5, and my top 3. Number 2, I have the one ship that is arguably better than the Millennium Falcon, the Ghost. Now, like I said with the Marauder, how it's not just their ship, it's their home, that applies to the Ghost crew as well. Possibly even more than the Bad Batch. Because this ship is how they started their rebellion. They didn't have a fleet. They didn't have anything. They had each other and this ship and the Phantom. That's all they ever had. And it was enough for them to get on the Empire's. It was basically enough to have an Inquisitor sent to Lothal. Not only an Inquisitor, the Grand Inquisitor, the most powerful of them. And then Vader was sent to Lothal. Not only that, then Thrawn was sent to Lothal. Okay? This ship is the Ghost Cruise ship. And when I said it's arguably better than the Millennium Falcon, I mean that because it's not faster than the Falcon, that's proven, but it could possibly beat it in a fight. Okay? The Falcon would be quicker, so it could get past it faster and shoot. But the Ghost has more weapons on it, plus it has the Phantom that can detach, except for in Season 4 of Rebels for some reason. But yeah, this ship is amazing. If you haven't seen Star Wars Rebels, you're missing out. And you should really go watch that after you finish this video. Because the Ghost is the second best ship in all of Star Wars. But you know what was making number 1 when you clicked on this video. The Fireball from Resistance. Obviously, this was making number 1 in my ranking of all ships of Star Wars. I mean, what's better than the Fireball? Well, actually, there are a few. Kylo Ren's command ship. Oh, man. I'm not actually going to list all 20 of them, but if I would, that would have been funny. I don't have time to rethink every single ship. No, I can't even actually finish this joke. You know what? You knew what was number 1. This is a disgrace for me to have even made this joke. The Millennium Falcon. This ship is the main ship in all of Star Wars. Now, this ship may at first look like a total piece of junk, but it's had a lot of adjustments made on it by Han himself. It's the fastest ship in all of Star Wars, fast enough to make the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs. Okay, and this ship would have never happened if not for a hamburger. That's right, George Lucas came up with the design for this ship because of a hamburger that had a bite taken out of it. That's how the Millennium Falcon came to be. If that hamburger had never had a bite taken out of it, we never would have seen what the Millennium Falcon would have looked like. It would have had some completely other design. But yeah, this ship is in the entire original trilogy, it's in the sequel trilogy, and it's even in Revenge of the Sith. If you watch, when they're on Coruscant, it passes by. It's kind of a blink and you'll miss it moment, but no, it's in there. You just gotta look. And then it's in Solo, too. Now, we see in Solo how this ship goes from being this really nice-looking ship to the junker we all know and love because of Han. Han Solo and Chewbacca are the two who you think of when you think of this ship. It's their ship, which never made sense to me why Rey has it at the end of Rise of Skywalker. Shouldn't Chewie keep his ship? That's the thing, though. Why does Chewie never sit in the pilot seat when Han's gone? Now, I guess he is just used to his seat, and it doesn't matter because you can control it from the co-pilot seat, too. He's probably just used to his seat. But anyway, yeah. In the original trilogy, even in the original trilogy, he doesn't sit there. He sits in the co-pilot seat and has Lando in the pilot seat. But anyway, yeah. This ship, you knew it was first place. I'm kind of disgraced that I even made that joke about making the fireball be there. Anyway, this is Grand Admiral Thrawn signing off. I look forward to our next encounter in my next video, and may the Force be with you. Happy Star Wars Day.